Yeah. You're making me wait, man. You don't make Tiger 71 wait.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we are live now. Thank you for waiting it out.
People are going to think I'm an arrogant arsehole.
You run the show behind the scenes, Tiggs. We all know that. No, welcome, James. Thank you so much for joining us at 9:10 Melbourne time. It is only 8:10 up here in the Gold Coast, so
I love it.
Different time zones, but we'll make it work. Oh, here we go. Copping criticism already about time. I did my best, Aaron. I did my best. Jesus. How are we, gents? How was your weekend?
It was good. It was, for me, last weekend of summer programming at 3AW before we get into the footy. So that's wrapped up, and now football to look forward to.
Congratulations on wrapping that up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was
celebration at the end.
Oh yeah, no, it was just nice to finish the season on pretty high. We had ratings in Radioland last week, so gave us an indicator of where we were overall, and it was good. Yeah, so no complaints. Looking forward to the footy now.
Very good. And Tiggs, what about you, mate? How was your weekend?
It was good. It was not long enough. Like, I can't believe it's Tuesday tomorrow and I've got to go back to work. But no, I got a lot of Maya gift cards from, like, you can see there's a Maya gift card. Only kidding, Gaz. No, from my 50th. So we're going to win the flag, and you know why, boys? Because it just happened all beautifully. I went in. I wanted to buy runners, right? And fucking Maya, right? They're all for the Melbourne supporters. But anyway, I found the brand. Mine's flogged. The clothing is fucking disgusting. But I bought a couple of pants, jeans, which are 2 for $100. The old northern suburbs in me. You got to hunt for bargains. But I brought myself the best runners I've ever had, and they're Puma. Who sponsored? What does Puma sponsor?
Richmond.
It's a sign. Trust me.
It's a sign.
It's a sign.
Massively.
Very good. No CB tonight. He's still probably licking his wounds after the Gormandale Tigers did go down in the grand final, unfortunately. CB did, funnily enough, post footage of the wicketkeeper dropping an absolute soda off his bowling, which might have changed the game. He wasn't being very subtle with his feedback there, old CB. But bad luck to the boys. Hopefully they can shake it off and come back next year.
I feel for the keeper, because CB must be like now I know how Russians feel having Putin as their president. Because CB's like Putin if he's a team member, putting, that poor keeper's probably had rocks thrown at him. His house has probably been burnt down. These regional people are crazy, mate.
I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised CB doesn't bowl with a hat, because the shine off the forehead may have just blinded the keeper slightly.
I was concerned he wasn't wearing any headwear, because that bolt's gone. He probably had heat stroke, and he accidentally, unfortunately, tweeted and shamed his teammate for the whole world, and he probably didn't mean it. He probably had heat stroke when he did it.
Well, we love you, CB, and no doubt see you back next week. But
yeah, definitely.
Big game coming up this week, fellas. Thursday night. I'm kind of glad we're not the first game. I think we've said that in previous weeks. So I like the grand final rematch happening first. But Carl, the noise from the Blue supporters after their pracky game against Melbourne is that they've won a grand final. As you can see, he's Tig shaking his head. They looked all right, to be fair, but I mean, Melbourne kind of put the foot on the throat a little bit in the last quarter and come romping home, and they've got, I think, Walsh is out, but it's look, they're going to beat us at some stage in one of these round one games, aren't they? It's just a matter of if and when.
Well, the morale's high, change of coach, new coaching staff coming in, and Doherty, you never wish anything health-wise like what he's gone through the last sort of 12, 18 months. So to see him up and about and likely to now get a gig round one, congrats to him. So there's a lot to like from the Carlton camp, so they have a right to be up and about. But, how long can the positivity continue for the Blues, I suppose, is the question we're asking. Are they really going to put it to us for 4 quarters, or will it be a couple of quarters that they stick up with us and then we just run over the top of them? You never know, but I'd say, we just can't be off on Thursday night, that's for sure.
And that's been the trend, hasn't it, Tiggs, is that because of our shortened pre-seasons in the past few years, they've generally got the jump on us early, and then we've kind of reeled them back into the game went on. But now that our pre-season's no different to theirs, it's going to be interesting to see how we go.
Yeah, look, for me, it's a couple. I'm glad we're not the first game up because we get to have the umpire aberrations out of the way now affecting another side, which is good because they always overcorrect the second game. So,
Yeah.
it's going to be funny to see, them paying the 50s and all that sort of stuff and then balancing out when we play. So that's a positive. Look, I got a really good mate of mine. I got a lot of Carlton mates. And we had a beautiful late lunch today, which was nice of them to throw for my birthday. But, Grimes looks like he's coming in, which is great news for us in relation to a structural perspective. But I don't think the Blues have really improved other than work rate. They're still messy with the ball. They turn the ball frightfully. 95 times against Melbourne, 80-plus against their first opponent as well. Melbourne just didn't. Melbourne also applied zero pressure in the midfield for 3.5 quarters. And when they applied pressure, when Goodwin obviously said, now get your finger out and start playing as midfielders, Carlton went all that sea and could not defend the momentum. So they bat well in the midfield, but if they're going to put Sarah inside, which they've done, and they're going to put alongside Cripps and Stewart, whatever the other spot that they put in, we can get them on the outside. We can easily match them on the inside. And I don't think we'll allow Cripps and their midfielders the time and space that they've had for the last 2 weeks. The other thing, too, for me, which gives me a lot of confidence is, like you said, the last 3 pre-seasons we've played them, we've had their measure, we put them away in basically a quarter of footy and really took, just conserved ourselves. And part of that being our preparation has always been for, round 8, round 9, round 10 to start to grow into the season. This year, I seriously see, and I've got mates that have been at training and stuff like that, from everything I'm getting, I reckon we'll be like 2017. We'll just put the foot on the pedal straight away. I see definitely the hunger's there. The urgency, though, is there, which is what we've been missing. I think we've got players that want to prove a point, that we are still the best side in the league. And I actually really think we might get a hold of them.
And I reckon to your point, that's a good comment from Julian as well about players cracking in hard early. I reckon Cochrane might be able to prove a bit of a point that even though he's handed over captaincy, Carl, he's still in that barometer and that driving factor for us in the middle.
Oh, for sure. Exactly. And I think not having the captaincy is going to work to Koch's advantage because I kind of feel like at times last year, trying to, get the team going just was too much for Koch across the season last year. And it was, detrimental to his form. He just couldn't find consistent form last year. He was in and out, with injuries and whatnot. And it just didn't help his cause. So I think, with the preseason that we've had, where all the players are looking fit and firing, and Koch especially is looking quite good too. He's looking so good that he can afford to spend some time with his kids and put makeup on himself. It appears. I don't know if anyone saw that on social media, but no, I think you need to be able to sort of live a little and I think by him spending some more time with his family and stuff, he'll feel more relaxed. I think he's going to be fit and firing on Thursday. And I'd be watching out if I was Carlton.
Yeah, and last year Koch was struggling with a knee. He couldn't get any of that burst because Koch is not overly quick, but what he did have was that elite closing speed, and he had lost that. I remember watching a game in the season, I think, when we were all deciding, is he hurt or is he not? Because the club wasn't saying anything. And it was a centre, I forgot which side it was, but it was a centre square contest, and the ball basically bounced to his left, and he couldn't get there. And that's when, and I think we had a show after that, and we're like, nah, something's wrong with him. He could not even keep pace with it. So I think he was just playing, because we had, if you remember in the first half of the year, we had so many players out injured. And the big stat this week, and look, I don't rate some of the special comments, but one of the guys, I think it was Shorey, that used to be at Essendon and a few other clubs, we had only 11 players play 18 games. That's the lowest of any club last year by a country mile. And even Rowan, who's known, he likes when Richmond is struggling, and he hates to give us credit, much like Robbo, even conceded the fact that no club, no great the system, no great the talent can stand up to that level of talent being missing from your 22. So that's why I seriously think, look, Jack's right. They will press this Carlton early, I reckon, or in parts of that game. But they're going to just go all out attack. That's what they do. People bag Teague for attacking mindset. I think that's what Carlton's going to do. They're going to go off helter-skelter. Then bringing in Doherty in tells me, and I'm rapt to hear the news, I hope he goes well for the rest of the season. I wish him nothing but the best. But that tells me that Voss or the president, because I think the tail wags the dog at Carlton. I reckon the president said to Voss, we need to win this, to get the momentum kicked on, membership money coming in. So they're going to throw it like a grand final to us. If we can weather that and then break their backs, we're top 4. If we crumble, then it might be, it'll take us a while to kick in the gear. But, it's going to be a fascinating game.
I think the players are feeling a bit fresh. My mate here, who's also named Chris, was telling me before that Tommy Lynch was saying today that it's the best they've felt in quite a few years, and they're very hungry and wanting to prove a lot of people wrong and believe that they can still be contending for years to come. So the fire seems to be I know anyone can say that, and I accept that can be criticism from outside looking in, but it's good to hear those words coming from the players that the fire still burns within Carl, that they're actually hungry, because it just didn't read that way last year.
Nah, I mean, we were just cooked, hardly any pre-season. I reckon we were lucky to get the wins that we did get a lot of the time last year. Is exactly right. Like you said, the hunger just wasn't there. And I think so far in the pracky matches we've seen, they have looked a bit hungry. And I think as well, thinking about it, we've got a pretty big weapon up our hand against Carlton. We have their most recent senior coach, and our coaching staff, David Teague. So, if there's anybody who knows a lot of the players at Carlton, it's David Teague. So I think you can, implement a new game plan, try and do things differently. But at the end of the day, if there's anybody who knows the abilities of the players at Carlton, it's David Teague.
And the strengths and weaknesses as well, which is a huge intel.
Exactly right. And I think he'll be in a position where he might be able to tell in certain scenarios what could be the best situation for us to line up as, or player on player and whatnot. So, look, I think it's going to be a very good matchup on Thursday night.
Yeah, it definitely will be. We'll take a look at some more specifics. Just to answer this, Connor, where the mail is that Grimes is a good chance to play. So I read a training report that he trained with the main group. I think it was yesterday, I believe. And all the reports coming out is that it could be good to go. But Bolter, again, trained with the forward. So it does seem very much that he is being groomed to be a forward who does go back when required, which says a lot about Gibcus, number one. But looking at the Carlton backs, you've got McDonald and McGovern, who are going to be having to take Riewoldt and Lynch. And then if Bolter does play there, that's where it becomes interesting, because you've got, I don't know who else is tall enough and athletic enough to be able to keep up with Bolter if he gets off the leash. And this is the whole point about him having a third defender tease.
Yeah, but the thing is, what you're missing too is the other layer. That's where we're going to get him. Is look, they might be able to contain two of our best. Let's say they really go hammer and tong on, because I know what they're going to do. They're going to do McGovern as a floating interceptor, right? That's what they're going to try to do. They're going to expect us to be the old Richmond, bomb it long into the forward line. That's what they're going to expect. But what really excites me when you break our forward line versus their back line, we've got Shai Bolton, Edwards, and Baker in that forward line, right? So what that means is Sard and Williams can't be free-flowing attack. They're not great defensive players, even though they play in the back half. They're basically weapons to launch attacks, start attacks. They're not going to have an easy night because Baker's just as quick as either of those two boys, and so is Shai Bolton. And they've got to have to man these two boys who will run up into the midfield, then run forward. They don't have the tank or from what I've seen for the 3 years that I've seen Assad at the Blues, to do that instinctively. So, like I said to my mate of mine, I said, mate, it took Hardwick 3 years to intrinsically change the culture of our playing list, not just the playing personnel, about, habits of when to run, two-way running, how they could do it in fits and spurts when he first came on board, but it wasn't contained. But yeah, look, our talls will really hurt them. We'll stretch them. I don't see them having enough for the three talls, but it's our smalls. I reckon we'll get them. They're going to be so focused on, all right, that long ball in, get McGovern loose, and we'll exploit that. And our smalls will just crumb and crumb and crumb, because I don't see they have a defender or a small defender. They've got one. They haven't got two or three. So I reckon that's where we'll get them.
And appreciate the comments in chat about Wiedering being the one I've left out. So that is a good call. Wiedering will obviously play a big role for them down back, Carl. But how do you see our forward line structuring up against their defenders?
I feel like we're just going to be too big for them. Yeah. I don't really think Carlton have got a big defense for mine. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I think we'll throw Bolter in there. We've got 3 tools. I don't know how they're going to stop all 3 of them.
No.
You know?
I think as well, a lot of it will be ball movement. If we play our last year game plan of just sitting it on people's heads, I think we'll get carved up down there because Wiedering and McGovern do read the ball well and can kill a contest. If they're all on their bikes and moving to different bits of space and kicking to players leading, I think we could cause them some trouble.
Yeah,
but just the smalls play a part in that as well.
But just on that, Teague, on Cole's point, having Teague will be able to let us know. We might bomb it long because I know McGovern doesn't like the ball coming high over his head. He hates that. He likes the ball to be floating in front so he can intercept and take his, those marks. So, but what happened from last year? We didn't have 3 tools. See, people got to get this through their heads. We didn't have a fit Jack. We didn't have a fit Tom. Now, Tom cops that hot and cold tag, but he was the most consistent forward in our premiership year in 2020. When he was outside of his injury patch. He was injured last year in a knee, but still played through it till we had to pull the trigger and get him out of the system. And if it wasn't for him kicking those goals in the prelims, we wouldn't have had the 2 flags that we had. So I really see him being fresh, with Bolter fresh, with Lynch fresh. This is probably the game because they aren't tall. They're set up for that, intercept marking. Withering he's a good defender, he's a quality defender, but still young. If we can get enough repeat ball in there nice and high, either our talls will mark it or our smalls will crumb it. I actually think our forward line, the way it's structured, is if you break it down by line, I don't see how they can contain us. Unless they flood. That's the other thing that they might do. Their plan B is flood their midfield back.
I don't reckon they can afford to. Getting a new start with Vossi, you can't play a shit brand of footy like that, I don't think.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. That's why I really believe they got Doherty in, which I think is a huge mistake. He's played 1 practice match. I know he played a VFL, but if we keep this pace of the game, and I hope they're stupid enough to play the game fast, like they did against Melbourne, we'll tear them to pieces. They won't be able to slow us. If they want to keep fast, we'll just keep getting the game faster. That just plays into our system.
Yeah. But I think the other thing as well, if I've noticed anything from our forward entry, is we're sharing the ball around a lot in our forward 50 to enable us to get that goal, a lot like what we did do in 2017 where we utilised the small forwards. We did a little bit of hand passing, but it was, to our favour because we were able to, get goals that way. So I think if we do that, I think that's going to throw off McGovern as well. Because I just feel like McGovern can get very disorientated very quickly. So if we if we put him off early enough, I think it'll be enough to do some serious damage in the forward line. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if instead of banging it long and trying to, get a mark inside 50, the ball hits the ground and we're hand passing it to our smalls to get goals too.
Could be a chaos special.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, flipping to the other end of the field, Carl. What about the forwards? We've got Harry Mackay, Silvani, De Koning, Fisher's down there as a small. Obviously, Curnow down there as well. If we're assuming that Grimes plays, then we've still got Tarrant, Vlosten. We're hoping is going to be available from all reports, and for all intents and purposes, Gibcus is going to play down there with Short. How do you see us curtailing? I mean, McKay won obviously the Coleman last year, so he can mark, can kick, and then that's going to be their go-to play.
Well, it's interesting. I would say you would want to see probably a Grimes go on to McKay, but at the same time, wouldn't surprise me if Tarrant goes on him too. I think between them two, you're going to have, one of our 2 best senior defenders back there get that match up, I would have thought. As far as Curnow goes, probably wouldn't mind seeing him, Vlosten match up with him. I just think, depending Vlosten's there, of course. But if not, one thing I reckon will happen is Silvani and Gibcus on the condition that, Gibcus plays. and it's looking more and more likely that he will. I think if Grimes, we're hearing that he's going to play, but if he doesn't play, then Gibcus has to play. It's just as simple as that. And if he does, I'd like to see him man up with Silvani, because I still think Silvani, okay, he's been in the AFL system for a little while, but if Gibcus is going to match up with anybody, I think that would be the best sort of pairing for him initially. But I see obviously, Nank and Soldo going back to help out when the ball's, going into the contest down back too. So I think we're in good stead as far as we've got some serious, height defensive wise, as well as in our forward 52. So, yeah, I think it can only be good for us this season.
Yeah, you like Silvani, Tiggs. You're a big fan of his.
Fan of you?
Silvani.
Oh, yes. Shut the fuck up, mate. You're going to get me stoned. You're going to get me stoned. I like him out of all the Carlton players. He's the only one that tried every game last year. That's why I like him. That was so noticeable because it's so rare. But, I hope we smack his head into a goal post. In honesty, no, I mean that in the spirit. That, big joke. I'm not wishing an injury on him. But, no, the reality is this for me. McKay, I reckon you put Tarrant on McKay when he's deep. If he wants to run up to lead, and then our system will block him and block his space. Curnow, I'm agreeing with Lee. I reckon straight away Broad goes on Curnow. The thing is with Curnow, he's still not 100% match fit because he's missed so much football. So Broad can overwork him. He's going to have to chase Broad because Broad sets up a lot of our offensive play. Fisher, there are other potatoes that they have. You put, Short and the like. So the other silver lining of Bolter forward means we can actually throw Nankervis or Soldo, just plonk them at the defensive side of the midfield square. Basically centre half back, just a bit further out to block that, counter-attack punch that Carlton might try to do. That's the only way I can see them winning this game. If they park the bus, make it dirty in our front half and try to chain it out and then do that long bomb. We just have a resting ruckman there to support the rest of our guys. And we'll just take mark after mark after mark after mark. So, and if Curnow starts getting out of hand and needs someone to mine him full time, then we just put Bolter on him. For me, the way I read Hardwick was Bolter, we're trying him forward. We know he's a good backman. We know he can play defensively. That box is already ticked. Let's see how he goes in the forward line. But nothing's going to stop us going, you know what, Bolter, go in the back line, man him for 15 minutes, and we'll just throw Soldo or Nank forward to cover your role,
It's good to have options. I think you're right. Bolter's the break in case of emergency, break glass type action to chuck him back. The other part of the ground, Carl, that on paper we can get a hold of them is the rucks. Pittonet and De Koning versus Soldo and Nankervis. If you were to put those names in front of even the Carlton supporters, I think would have to concede that we should really win that battle.
Yeah, we should, but also I wouldn't necessarily underestimate Pittonet either, because I've always kind of liked him as a ruckman, I think because he was sort of undervalued at Hawthorn, which led to him going to Carlton. And I think he's been good for them off the back of Carlton losing Cruiser too. Like they sort of, because Cruiser was who they were dependent on as their ruck for a long time, Carlton. He was in and out with injuries. With Pittonet, they've sort of got somebody that is their lock ruck. So, look, I think he'll provide a contest in the ruck, but he won't be. When we've got Nank and Soldo together, it's going to make any opponent, have a difficult task.
We can now work them over, can't we? I know most teams have a second ruck, but you don't want to brag and say elite quality, but Soldo and Nank are two pretty good ruckmen that can just work over the main ruckman, aren't they, Tiggs?
Yeah, the thing is, though, Carlton supporters believe their two potatoes are better than ours. Let's be honest. The Coing is this and whatever the Pittonet is that. Look, Pinnet's problem is he's a great tap ruckman but has no motor, right? So if Nank's on him, Nank would just crush into him and then just run off him as another defensive mid. And Soldo, he's going to break ribs this year. I've got a rib counter going at my house on a whiteboard, and I've marked the goal 20. So I'm going to hope he gets there. And I reckon he might do one or two.
The way he's moving it marks inside the board 50 is half a chance.
Yeah, or even around the ground. He for me is the one player that I'm fully excited about. So he looked to me, he had something that I haven't seen from him before. He actually had a bit of pace about him. He's not just a lumbering kid anymore. You can see the pre-seasons are starting to have the effect.
He's definitely slimmed down.
Yeah, he's slimmed down and he can run. some
Well,
of his.
He's slimmed down but muscled up, and I think a lot
Yeah.
of that's going to be to do with his recovery from the ACL too, to take a bit of a weight load going through the knee.
And sometimes when you do a knee, you get taught again how to properly run your biomechanics. You get really concentrating on how you should be running during a game. And he's obviously done a fair bit of work on that. But yeah, they're rucks. I agree with one of the comments. The only way, if our midfield just gets hammered and we can't stop them clearing the ball, they can be, any side can be dangerous with that quick inside 50, because that's nearly impossible to defend. But I don't see that happening. I just don't see. In spurts, I see it happening, but I don't see it happening for the whole game.
Yeah, and then the last two players I think is definitely worthy paying attention to is Cripps and Chera. Are obviously going to be the driving force for the midfield of Carlton with Walsh out. Look, both gun players in their own right, undoubtedly. You do have to laugh, though, when the comparisons made that Chera on Dusty and how that's going to play out. That will not end well if you're a Carlton supporter, Carl. But, we're typically not a team who tags traditionally. It's just not something we do. But does there come a point during a game, if a mid like Cripps is getting on top of you, do you pay him extra attention, or do you just back our guys to go head-to-head?
Well, I just think we're going to have way more options in the midfield than what they do. That's all Carlton supporters are talking about are Cripps and Chera. It's like, well, if who have we got in our midfield? Bolton will go in there. We've got McIntosh there. We've got Prest here. We've got all these names that are premiership midfielders, premiership footballers. They're going to shut Chera and Cripps down. They might get some of the ball and some forward entry here and there and do a few fancy things, but I just think we've got them covered in the midfield. I think the only way they're going to tear it up in the midfield is if they get sort of win the ball cheaply, and just find a way to dispose of it and get a quick forward entry. That's all I really see Carlton doing on Thursday night. I'll be shocked if I see anything else.
Yeah, agree. And the thing is, if Cripps is getting out of control, I can see Nankervis just spear tackling him. You know how he does it every game. When there's someone in their midfield is getting out of control and he gets upset by it, he just does that tap because he knows that midfielder's going to get the ball, and then he does a spear tackle and just crushes him to the ground. And might do it 2 or 3 times. So, yeah, look, their midfield doesn't worry me. And according to the Blues, they think Hewitt now, or wherever that guy from Sydney is now, an elite A grade fucking midfielder, and we've got no one to go with him. Look, for me, to see Prestia injury fit, to see Cochin injury fit, they've got no one with the creativity of Edwards and Bolton that we can also inject there if we want to change the shape of the centre ball. They've got Grunt. They've got 100%. They've got Grunt. But Chera, even though I like the kid, he still burns the football. When he gets it, a little bit of pressure, the ball will go skew-if. I think he kicked it 3 times out in the full. Again, because I rewatched the Melbourne. I actually watched it for the first time in full before the show, and he turned it over. Like under minimal pressure would turn the ball over. So, they're work in progress. What's sad for Voss is that I watched it because it's footy. I'm so starved of it. I watched the Blue podcast, right?
Oh.
I did, and they're all thinking they're fucking. That's it. We've got no hope. This is the time to get the Tigers. We'll smash them by 78 points, and it is just you're going to. The thing is, Voss is trying. You can't change a game plan in one season. Any coach will tell you that. So what's great? We've got Teague. He knows what the game plan. He knows what 60% of that game plan is going to be.
That's the thing, though, isn't it? Voss is going to tell them to do whatever he wants them to do, but there's going to be times where they default back to what they've done for the past 3, 4, 5 years. It's just out of human nature. It's just it's going to happen.
Let's just hope they start playing like how Brendan Bolton told them how to play.
That'd be handy.
Yeah. No, I want them to go all out attack. I want them to go all out attack and try to run us off our feet. We're faster side than them on the wings. That's where we'll get them. They don't have anyone with the motor of McIntosh. If Hugo Ralph-Smith will play, I think.
I was about to ask you guys, do we think Hugo is going to be a lock for this game based on what we've seen so far?
I think so.
I think it depends on whether or not we have Jack Graham playing or not.
Well, he's injury-free now, Jack, but apparently they might want to give him a scratch match and a VFL match. But the thing is, we've got the sub-rule, boys, this year.
Yeah.
So, Jack might be a sub. Hugo might get their first crack or vice versa.
Do you know,
So-
I wouldn't mind that, though. I wouldn't mind if Hugo played and Jack was the sub. I think that would be good because I think we've seen enough of Hugo to say that he should be, around the mark early on this season.
Yeah.
So, if Jack's not fit, then I would say for sure, or couldn't, start, then I reckon you're 100% spot on.
I think as much as I love Jack Graham, I think I would feel more comfortable with Hugo playing because he's got miles in the legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
And
it's
he looked
early
really
on.
good.
He did. He didn't look out of place. He looked good.
No.
We'll just go through a couple of our own plays just to get the vibes. Rioli, always a polarising player. He obviously filled a role for us off the half-back line. Mansell was now obviously COVID-free and played VFL a couple of weeks ago. Who plays that half-back role for us?
I would not pick Rioli. Sorry. After what I've seen for the past 2 games, I would put, if I'm going to do it and we're fed income and we're playing Carlton, let's be honest, there's rumours going around that Tom Brown, I think the club's mentioned they're really bullish to try to get him in. I would actually put Brown in instead of Rioli, give him a full game. Apparently seriously, he's been torching it in training. The VFL, he was really good. He's a runner, he's a half-back flanker, elite disposal, elite pace. I think he will equal Daniel Rioli's output that Daniel Rioli's shown in these past 2 games. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not putting a line through Dan. I love Rioli. But I think he needs to know that if he doesn't get up to the next level, someone's going to take his spot. And this is probably a good game, round 1, so it's within season, makes a lot more effect to a player than, let's say, a scratch match, that he loses his spot. That's what I would do.
Yeah, but I think if you're not going to put Dan there, I would probably put Pickett there just on experience. I think for me, that would be what would hold up as an argument. Like, if you're not going to put Dan Rioli, I reckon put Pickett there just because I think he sort of works that half-back role kind of good where he sort of can push through the midfield a little bit and then he can sort of, as I said in the last podcast, I kind of feel like when the contest is in our defensive 50 and the ball's up in the air, like he can sort of jump up and create a contest a little bit, like a defensive contest so that we can, move the ball forward. Well, try and, move the ball forward a bit quicker. So, yeah, I reckon if we're not going with Rioli there, I'd like to see Pickett there. But that's just me.
Once again, good to have options. Very good to have options. If any other listeners have got any questions there, send them through before we wrap up. Someone put one in there for if Rewalt or Lynch isn't working up forward or they go down or whatever and Bolter's struggling, what's our plan B?
I reckon we've got multiple. First of all, that'd be a fucking disaster, right, man? It's 3. You're basically painting a scenario that 3 of our guns all can't. Something's happened, right? So we can just go one toss around it with Smalls. We can roll Dustin Martin into the forward as a full forward. We've done that before with great effect. So we've got options, but I don't think. Yeah, Mansell's the other one. Yeah, good call, Dad. Yeah, Mansell. People's forgotten about him. He was a lock 22 backman before, towards the end of last year. So what would be our options? I reckon, we'll just go small, one tall, rotate it with Smalls and just do it with the up the ground pressure run. Default to what's worked before, but I doubt we'll ever need to do that.
What about Caddy, Carl? Does he factor into any equations or we're pretty settled there now and it's just a matter of waiting for his time?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think waiting for his time. I kind of feel like, for me, he's not in our best 22. Like, I want to see him play his best football and be in our best 22, but I just kind of feel like we're spoiled for choice with options, and he's, one of those players that are just fighting for a spot. And then where do you play him? Is he trying to play a forward role like what a Baker or a Bolter are sort of trying to play, where they sort of rotate forward midfield, or do you, try him on a half-back wing sort of option? Like, I don't know, I don't see it happen. I definitely don't see it happening round 1, but I feel like if, we do happen to come across a couple of injuries or whatnot, then he may get an opportunity. But, he may even play well in the VFL and be really contesting to play in the AFL side. So, yeah, we'll just have to see what happens there, I suppose.
Yeah, I love Caddy, and I've screamed all last year. Guys in the show every week. I would say put him in the forward line. We need a medium-sized forward. I was on and on, but over seeing what we've got now on the list, seeing the kids that we have and the quality of the list that we're starting to build. If you looked at them in the VFL match that they had, they absolutely dominate. It's a scary quality of our depth in the club, and it was good to hear Hardwick's it was something I think on Channel 7, and he recognises that we've got all this talent that he needs to do something. So even though I love Pickett and Caddy, for me, I reckon they're breaking case of injury. Regardless of form, they'll be educating the young kids in the VFL. If someone, let's say on the wing, goes down and we need to insert, that's when Pickett will play. If someone goes down in the forward line, that's when Caddy will play. I think that's unfortunately how it's going to be. Fortunately, because we've got young kids that will prefer to pick first. And one person mentioned how many debutants can we play? I reckon 2. Again, it's not like we're playing Melbourne or another top 8 side. We're playing Carlton. Let's be realistic. You know what I mean? I reckon we should go in with 2, particularly with the sub rule.
All right, we'll do a couple more. Carl, we'll get both opinions. Who is playing the second wing position if K-Mac's on one wing? Pickett, Hugo, or Georgie?
Well, if I had to choose between those 3, I would say Hugo. Personally, I just think that's the best option. Georgie's going to stay up forward, and as he tends to do when we're, defending, he because of his defensive pressure, he likes to push back and apply tackles, and assist our back line sometimes. So I would say, yeah, he stays in the forward line. As I said, if Pickett plays, I would see him off the halfback, maybe rotating on a wing, potentially. But I would still probably prefer to see Hugo in there, personally.
Tiggs?
100% agree. I'd put Hugo. That'd be for me. But what's good with our wings? We've got some versatility there. We've got a lot of runners in the side. So, but yeah, Hugo will be my first one. He's showing he does that defense. He's starting to bring that defensive action into his game. He did it in the last 2 practice matches. You've got to reward it.
That's all very valid points. Second last one. What are we hoping to see from our forward structure on Thursday night, given how poor we've been the last couple of years? No denying our 450 entry has been nothing short of diabolical, and probably cost us quite a few games, Carl. Have we seen enough so far from Teague looking after the forward structures that we feel it's going to be different this time around?
I think we have, because one thing that I really kept an eye on in the 2 practice matches is we were able to hit a target. Be it short or long, we were making sure we hit targets. And I think that's something that, we really lacked last year. We couldn't hit targets. We turned the ball over too much. And we're trying to utilize the wings and kick it long on the wings, and we turned the ball over way too much. What I saw from our forward entry, it just looked good. It looked like we didn't necessarily rush our forward entry either, like we sort of tended to do a fair bit, where we just kick the ball into space and hope that there'd be someone there to pick up or, take a mark, and we'd turn the ball over. So, it looked a lot more composed than what it did last year. And I think if we're prioritising trying to hit a target or hit targets inside our forward line, it can only make the forward structure stronger.
Yeah.
Very good summation.
For me, is ball placement. What I like for the fact, because we had so many injuries that really curtailed our ability to get clean inside 50. Well, kicking the ball up high, but landing it in the danger zone, which is right, towards the top end of the 50 arc, around about that area. So to turn over there, they get a strength, nice easy path towards their goal, and we're getting killed. What I've noticed is we're going deeper. The forwards are splitting, so we're actually using the whole 50 arc, so we can hit those nice place kicks. And when we do go to the centre of the forward 50, we're going really deep, so to protect the turnover. But the other 2 biggest things I want to see, the first one is conceding less free kicks in our forward 50. I saw a little bit of improvement, but I don't know if that's hope, but that killed us last year. Every time we had a forward thrust and we finally got a mark, Jack pushed someone in the back. Someone did something stupid, and the ball just got easily turnovered and killed us. So I want to see that improved, really do. And a bit of a story I heard was Dimmer was umpiring training today and was being very vicious on that sort of shit, so which is good to hear. And the second thing is conversion. Our conversion rate last year sucked ass.
Oh, it was low 40%. It was terrible.
It was gettable goals that we would probably won 3 more games if we had a kick straight. So I want us to be able to do, see if we've improved that aspect of our game, which I think will improve because our forwards that are playing don't have to run as much to cover injuries of other players to try to create pressure. So, that's the thing for me, conversion and less inside 50 free kicks to the oppo.
Right.
That's what I'm looking for.
And the last one from Nathan, chuck your coach's hat on, fellas. Your Dimmer, first bounce of the game, who are your starting mids?
I've got it.
I would go Nank in the ruck, Dusty, Koch, Prestia.
Yeah, one more? Isn't it 4 mids? You've only said 3.
I didn't say Nank rucking and then Dusty, Koch, Prestia.
Yeah. Okay. We're not going to follow us. All right. Yeah, I'm the same.
But then my fear would be our lack of leg speed in that instance, having so I'm almost half tempted to put a Bolton or an Edwards in there, but
I was just going to say Bolton.
No, but those 3 feed it out to the outside of the square, which will have Bolton or Sheds or something like that to distribute it out. So
you'd have the same as me, Tiggs. What about you, Carl?
Yeah, I can't really see it any differently, really. If anything, you chuck a Bolton, or an Edwards in there for sure.
One thing with Edwards, when was it in 2020? An interesting stat came out for our 3 premiership years. Every time he was in the centre square, we won 80% of the clearance. Something stupid like that to our advantage.
It's not a coincidence. He's a freak.
He's a freak, but that's what he does, So, I wouldn't mind having him in the starting 4.
But we're always a better side with Edwards in it, regardless. Yeah. When he's in, our structure falls apart a little bit.
It's his ability to free up other players with a handball that no one sees coming. His vision is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, before we wrap up, we'll get a tip, including margin, from everyone. So feel free to put your tips in the chat as well, listeners. So, Tiggs, who is your tip and margin for our Thursday night game?
It tips Richmond, obviously. Margin, I actually think Vossi's going to have crazy Vossi on. And he'll go, all right, boys, let's just smash the shit out of them, run. And we'll feed off their turnovers. If they do 95 turnovers again and our conversion rates improved, we'll beat them by, I was going to originally say 23, but from what I've seen the last 2 games, I've watched them today, I reckon we'll beat them by 42 points if they go offence at us.
Okay, putting it out there early. I like it. Carl?
Interesting. I think we win. I think Tommy Lynch is going to have a day out in the forward line, just from what I saw, particularly against Hawthorn. And I think we win by 32 points.
I'll also go the Tigers, and I'll say by 28 points. I think it'll be close-ish for the first 2 quarters, and I reckon we'll just sort of run ahead with it off the back of having a longer pre-season under our belt.
I'm just going to put CB's nomination. I've got to channel CB. He's not here, but in spirit he is.
Okay.
Every prediction across the season, Richmond win against Carlton, 182 points.
I wouldn't be shocked if that was a real text either.
Yeah, 182 points. Love you, CB.
I did see a question about the new president. I do want to talk about that, but at another time we've probably got a bit more time to have a think about it and research it and have a proper discussion on it. But it is a good point, and Peggy O'Neill has done a tremendous job with the footy club, and big shoes to fill. Whoever's taking over.
I've got an early call. I've got an early call for president. I think we need to keep with a female presence, and the only person who I think can take over from Peggy is Ash Barty. Get rid of the tennis career, and let's just throw Ash in there now.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, my tip. Look, I don't think we have to be, just go for a female. I think, open it up to talent. But this one I'm thinking is very gender neutral in the sense that everyone will love him. CB, just put CB up there. I reckon he'll kill it. He'll kill it. So CB will do well. Here's my tip.
Oh, jeez. He'd be up for that, I reckon. Groupie as president. Come on, Damien. But no, thanks for jumping on, fellas, again at late notice and a late time slot. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone tuning in as well at the later time slot. Make sure for those who are in Melbourne that can get tickets to the game, please get along. Pack out the MCG. It's going to be great to have footy back. Get there with your friends, family, whatever you can, and let's make sure we're nice and loud because undoubtedly the boys feed off the crowd, and it's something they've missed the last couple of years. And I'm sure they're going to be pretty pumped to have the Tiger Army back out there on the Thursday night.
Yeah. I don't care if we lose every other game from this one. We must beat these flogs. Else, I don't know if I can do another show because I'll have so many people hunting for me, mate.
Oh,
People hunting for you.
Twitter will be lit.
Oh.
Oh, so this is a funny last comment. I'm sure Brendan will tip himself too. He can write all the articles he wants about himself if he puts himself in as president.
I think he will.
All right. Thanks for your time, gents. Have a good night. And for Thursday night, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.